My name is Justin Ware. I'm with Groundwork Digital. We're a little bit more than a year old. I've been doing fundraising consulting, digital fundraising consulting, actually back since 2011 when I worked with Ben Swaley Flessner, one of the larger consulting firms, fundraising consulting firms here in the States. I built a digital practice there. I spent some time at the Ruffalo Noel Levitz universe working on the Scale Funder platform. So I've been a consultant. I've helped to launch and to develop some technology for Giving Days. And now we have our firm, Groundwork Digital. And that's the capacity with which I'm speaking to you today, from which I'm speaking to you today. We are a digital fundraising consulting firm doing everything from the annual fund to digital major donor engagement program. So without further ado, because you've already been waiting quite some time this afternoon, let me go ahead and dig into the content a bit here. First, I want to talk about Giving Days and why we should do a Giving Day. We've had a lot of experience. Our team has done more than 36 online Giving Days all around the world, from the United States to Australia. And in every single case in higher education, it has been the annual fund's biggest day of the year. So a huge boost to fundraising and a tremendous boost to new donor acquisition. Because we're using so many channels that don't often see this level of attention, social media, email, direct mail, all of them sort of coming together in a multi-channel sense. But because we don't often see that, and because we don't often have so many online ambassadors involved, those peer-to-peer influencers who use their personal accounts to share your message, we open up new segments. We find new donors, and that leads to new donor activity on a Giving Day. But beyond the fundraising side of things, there are other reasons to do Giving Days. And one of which is the fact that a Giving Day is one of the best marketing tools for your philanthropy program. This is especially important, I think, for organizations that maybe don't have the historical fundraising performance that that's a lot of schools like we have here in the States might have, for example. Whenever we have these Giving Days, there's just a tremendous amount of energy and enthusiasm around the idea of giving back to an institution. So it's a wonderful marketing opportunity, and it's going to be seen by many, many thousands of people. Tens of thousands, quite frankly, is a conservative estimate. This is Washington State University's Giving Day. That's what this graph represents, looking back at a 2015 event. And what we were doing was tracking a hashtag called CougsGive, which is associated with their Giving Day, and watching to see how many times that CougsGive hashtag appeared on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and other social media feeds of users. You see two spikes here. The first spike is the 36-hour Giving Day event. The second spike, right after that weekend drop, is a thank you event the following week. Ultimately, what ended up happening is over the course of that week, when the CougsGive hashtag was live and the Giving Day was live, more than 1 million people saw that hashtag pop up in their feeds. There are only 200,000 living alumni at Washington State University, so that gives you a sense of how widespread these Giving Days can be. And not only are they widespread events, but they're very positive events as well. If you look at the tone of the chatter around an online Giving Day, so many people are giving back. They feel great about the fact that they're giving back. It's a philanthropic exercise. And that means the sentiment for those tweets, for those posts, for those Instagram pictures is very, very positive. It's very hard, actually, to find something that allows for this level of positive sentiment around any kind of an event, especially when we're talking about an event with hundreds of thousands of people talking about it. So Giving Days are a great advertisement for your organization, for your fundraising program, for your development program, because lots of people are talking about it, and lots of them are saying very good things. That's why it really pays to think about these as more than simply just a drive to get donations. Yes, that's what it is. But we also want to be thinking about some bigger picture items. We want to be incorporating all elements of our universities and colleges and schools into the planning process, because there's so much lift to be had, so much to be gained from being a part of an online Giving Day, even if fundraising is not your primary purpose. When we worked with UC Santa Barbara, another program that has a pretty strong major gifts element, but has alumni participation in the single digits. So more in line with what you might see over in the UK or some of our international clients in terms of, widespread philanthropy. It's not like some of the private schools here in the States that have 30, 40, 50% alumni participation, not even close. So what they're trying to do is not just drive fundraising, but drive engagement. Look at the long term. See what they can do to build a fundraising message right alongside and in lockstep with the branding message of the institution. And they did a great job of getting content out that matched what they were trying to talk about as an institution overall, matched what the alumni were thinking. They had more serious issues, more serious items, more serious pieces of content around certain topics that called for that, but then they also had a lot of fun with it too. And they, ultimately really kind of knew their audience and built a campaign around their audience and had a tremendous amount of success, again, not just in fundraising, but if you look at the trending tweets for that UCSB Giving Day back in 2016, almost 2 years ago, what you'll see here is a lot of really popular hashtags, a lot of really popular topics like Bruce Springsteen, like SpaceX, like the Vatican. So, Elon Musk, the Pope, and Bruce Springsteen. And UCSB was sharing space with them. Twice were they trending on Twitter during their online giving day. That's how effective they were at getting content out. That's how widespread and enthusiastic that message was across all these different channels. And oh, by the way, they also happened to raise $3.72 million from more than 1,200 donors. So a lot is possible both in the fundraising sense and in the marketing, communication sense for the institution and, of course, for your development overall. Giving Days are vibrant events. They tap new undiscovered segments. They do involve major donors. We're going to talk about this in a bit. Some of your most capable donors love being part of these online events because they are so celebratory. They're so much fun to be involved in that major donors like to have a part of them as well. It's also a great opportunity for cause marketing for some of our corporate partners, so another thing we can talk about. But ultimately, it's a party, and it's an online party and offline with some of the events that we'll do on campus. And the only way to attend this party is by making a gift, which is exactly the kind of movement you want to be creating online. Giving Days, they're called online Giving Days because online takes the lead, and that's where most of our gifts are going to come. But just like with any campaign, multi-channel is the way to go. Perfect case in point is a few years back, the University of Sydney. I was working with them in September, I should say the summer of 2014, when we helped them launch their first ever Pave the Way online Giving Day. And this was one of those events that truly was multi-channel. One of the first ones that we really looked at all the channels because we have a nascent online giving, just a nascent giving community. Fundraising, in Australia for higher education is hardly something that's been around for a long time. Sydney was trying to build their development program at that point in time. And again, we were trying to really activate every single segment we could, which is why we were kind of forced to look beyond just the online sphere of influence. And it worked out quite well. A phone program, for example. Sydney had their phone program firing on all cylinders about a week before the Giving Day. So that pre-calling period plus the gifts that came in during the Giving Day accounted for more than 300 actual gifts during that Giving Day. And this is something actually the states have kind of taken from Australia. And now most of the Giving Days we're doing here have a pretty strong phone element. And it almost always is the busiest and best period for the phone during these online giving campaigns. Robust on-campus events. That's multi-channel as well. Having a physical, tangible presence to an otherwise online event. It feels good. It looks good. It gives you great content opportunities when you have students, faculty, and the community sort of rallying in a very visible way on campus. Those are the kind of things you can snap, throw on Instagram, do a Facebook Live, and highlight the fact that this is more than just an online event. It's real, and there's a real-world impact as well. The campus-wide content marketing strategy, we sort of talked about that with what those live events offer us. And then in the end, it was a tremendously successful day for the University of Sydney. $1 million raised from more than 900 donors. And they have not stopped doing it. That's always, I think, a testament to how good the Giving Day actually was. Several years in now, I think this was maybe the fourth that they've done, and they've grown the numbers considerably. This is one of those events that isn't just good for an Australian university. This is one of the better Giving Days around the world. More than $2 million, more than 3,000 gifts were raised last September from a strong multi-channel effort. Major donors were involved, as they always are. Anytime you see a seven-figure fundraising total for a Giving Day, that almost always means that major donors were activated in advance of the Giving Day for things like supporting matches and challenges, and so on and so forth. This is another example of how you can get major donors involved, actually, and this is another multi-channel effort. And I think more in line with some of the numbers that we would initially be pursuing. And the reason why I share this is because, again, a fairly, a growing, sort of early stages development program, especially in the digital space. It's a hospital we worked with here in the States. And what we did was found major donors, or in this case, leadership annual giving donors, so those folks that give $500 to $5,000 a year roughly. And we worked with them to raise more money because we assume, and usually accurately, we assume that if someone has wealth, they probably know other people who have wealth as well. And if we give them the tools to activate that community, we can find the wealth within their community and active debt in support of the institution. So we find these major donors who are also online influencers, or as we call them, online ambassadors, and we build campaigns around them. We have the multi-channel support. These are very short, 3 days, 30 at the longest campaigns, and relatively reasonable goals with email, social media, mail, phone, online ambassadors, all channels active pushing the message out. And again, you get an annual fund lift. In this case, we had, I think, 94 gifts come in to raise $15,000. 80 of those 94 donors were making their first gift ever to the hospital. So a tremendous donor growth tool. Very effective in that sense. But also, it's who gave. So again, these two women, leadership annual giving donors, major donor level, and 3 of the people who gave during this campaign gave gifts of $500 or more and were immediately tagged as new donor major gift prospects. One of them is actually one of the biggest philanthropic donors in the community in which this hospital resides. So they were able to activate one of, probably the most important people in their community they possibly could through a campaign like this, because they're working with the major donors who are also online influencers. Here is the stratospheric level. Here's what could possibly happen, not tomorrow, probably not in the next few months for anybody on the line today, but if we have a good digital program over the course of a few years, a big hit like this is possible. This is from Marquette University. So again, I say it with the caveat that, yes, this is a pretty mature development program at Marquette. They've been doing not necessarily this for years, but they've been doing pretty good fundraising work for many years. In 2016, one of their major donors, who's also somewhat of a semi-celebrity, has a television show here on a cable network, so certainly a semi-celebrity. I often ask if folks in the room know who this individual is whenever we're at a conference or what have you, and very few hands go up. That's not true in the Marquette community, though. In Marquette, he's extremely well known. He's one of the more popular alumni, and he's very generous. And in 2016, he offered a $300,000 gift to the foundation if they could match that $300,000 gift. And with a multi-channel campaign, strong online component built around Mr. Lemonis, who is an online ambassador himself, so a single, but also an offline ambassador. He would show up at events on campus, sporting events, basketball games, alumni events, reunions, things like that, and really, champion this cause. So really sort of a multi-channel ambassador going along with a multi-channel campaign to raise a lot of money. And the key takeaway here is he loved it. Marcus Lemonis loved being a part of this. And we know that because he came back and said, $300,000 was great, but how about if I give you $1.5 million? Can we do the same thing? And they did. $3.2 million was raised in 2017. Which is actually very interesting because Marquette just did a giving day in the more traditional sense, 24-hour event. These campaigns with Marcus Lemonis were more in the range of 60 days. And that 24-hour event, granted, a tremendous amount of activity in a short period of time to reach $500,000 from however many donors they pulled in. But the overall total was not quite what it was with this single online ambassador. So sort of a new wrinkle on the giving day. But, long story short, this is what's possible. Everyone on this call can get there at some point. I don't think we're going to be doing this in the next 6 to 12 months for most of us on the line, but in the next 3 to 5 years, this is the type of thing that we should be looking to have happen at least once, if not a few times. So how do we plan the first giving day? Well, first you want to think about the theme. And this is, on one hand, it's not necessarily the most important thing unless you really nail it. And when you get it right and it really resonates with the audience, it can be the catalyst to a really successful day. But what we're trying to do is obviously find something that is inspiring, that inspires people to make a gift, but also celebrates your institution's strengths. So if you're a community that focuses on technology, you might want to work that into the title. If you're really just looking at growing the base of support, you can work that into the title. So pave the way for students and generations to come. Brilliant idea from the folks at the University of Sydney. I think pave the way is one of the better giving day campaign slogans or themes or titles I've seen. What's very popular as well, all in for SCU, all in for UNLV, all in for Emory. We see a lot of those in the States. And again, I like this message a lot too, because what we're basically saying is whoever you are, whatever you're capable of, just go all in and do what you can on this giving day. If that means a $20 gift is what you can do, go all in, give us $20. If a $20,000 gift is what you can do, let's make that happen. Let's use that for a match or a challenge and have one of the best days that we can have. Others keep it even simpler. Big give, great give, giving day, day of giving. Those work too. They're direct to the point. Everyone understands what it is. But, again, thinking about this and thinking about a slogan, a title, a tagline that leads well into what it is you are as an institution and what is it they're trying to accomplish, which in this case, of course, is raise money to support the institution. Email. We want to have a public phase. We do want to let people know it's coming. We don't want to do it too far in advance. Not that it would really hurt to talk about a giving day 6 months in advance, but it wouldn't have really any effect. People, I think, probably forget about it. Probably not a whole lot of folks are going to put it on a calendar. But 2 or 3 weeks out is a really good time to start getting your audience ready for the concept, thinking about giving back so that they know what's happening when they first see it popping up in their feeds the morning of the giving day and they're prepared to make a gift. Segmentation is important across all email, all ways. You can do it, of course, by giving level. We see that happen a lot. What we're starting to do more of with our clients is do it based on theme. So if we have giving history of our donors, it makes sense that we create some buckets around that giving history and solicit people along the lines of what they're interested in seeing and learning more about. And we also have a separate strategy for the online ambassadors. So again, those online ambassadors, those are the folks who are on social media, are on email, use those channels frequently to communicate with the institution and about the institution. What we're trying to find are those advocates, those ambassadors, those peer-to-peer influencers who, when they post something on Facebook or Twitter, other people who are potentially in your community are going to see that and might take action on that. There's a 4-phase approach to it. The first one is identification. For almost every single organization that we work with, in fact, literally every single organization that we work with, we now use technology. We take the email base, we grab the email base, we scan it, we look for influencers within that email base, and then we identify those who we think would be excellent ambassadors of the mission. You can also supplement this, and you should supplement this with the organic approach as well. If there's someone who's always on your Facebook page and commenting and sharing and liking things, but the software does not surface them, they're still an online ambassador. They should be added to the program. We want to make sure none of those individuals slip through the cracks. Technology, again, is very good, very useful, very helpful. But if the email you have for an individual is not the same email that individual uses to log into Facebook, for example, then the technology can't match them. So again, we want to make sure that we miss all of those that maybe fall through the cracks. Depending on the platform that you use, you're probably going to get about a 40 to 50% hit rate. Maybe more, maybe less, again, depending on your community and the technology for matching those ambassadors to emails. So, if you pump 50,000 emails into an ambassador identification platform, you should probably expect to get about 25,000 results back. And again, then you just want to make sure you're adding those who might slip through the cracks. Engagement, it's email for the annual giving ambassadors all the way up to a personal one-on-one engagement with the major donors. We want to have conversations with as many of these folks as we can, actually. And you might even want to take a select few annual fund donors, maybe some of the biggest influencers, and call them personally to make sure that they understand what we're trying to do with the program, which is share. We're going to send them some emails from time to time with some content that they can copy and paste to put directly into Facebook or Twitter. And I also want to let them know that it does matter, that this does work. During the engagement phase, we want ambassadors to understand that sharing is not trivial. The more they share, the more people see our message, the more people give back. Deployment, same thing. Again, we talked about how we deploy them. We send them content via email, and we ask them to share it on social media. We do that for giving days. We can do it in support of crowdfunding campaigns, and we should do it throughout the year as well, especially when it's not a fundraising-related message, so that we're not always relying on them as a fundraising crutch, but as another communication channel for everything from stewardship activity to solicitation activity. Speaking of stewardship, we want to make sure that they're recognized. One of Hubbub's clients for a giving day, TCU, discovered that one of the best ways to keep ambassadors happy and get them to come back time and time again is to simply show them the impact they're having. Show them how many gifts they're raising, how many dollars they're bringing in, how many people have clicked on their link. Demonstrating that impact of sharing for online ambassadors, from what we are seeing and what we're tracking, that demonstration of impact actually is more of an incentive for ambassadors to come back and share than giving them a free prize, for example, like T-shirts and hats and coffee mugs and so on and so forth. Giving Day is multi-channel. We mentioned this. At a minimum, I think it's a smart idea to have a mail piece go out a week or two in advance of the Giving Day, just to save the date, a heads up, a multi-channel touch point to to ensure that we're getting every possible segment on board for the giving day. We talked about the phone program, a pre-calling campaign, a few days to a week or even a bit longer before the giving day is a great idea. Tell donors on the call that their gifts can count towards the giving day. And even if they don't make a gift, then we can say, well, make sure you check us out at such and such.edu on, the date to be had up ahead with the giving day. So it could be both an awareness call marketing the giving day, but also an opportunity to secure a gift, which can be counted toward the giving day. It's an online giving day. And of course, we talked a lot about it being multi-channel, but in the end, the business takes place for the most part on a website. Most of your gifts are going to come in online. So we want something that is optimized for converting traffic to gifts. We, again, should drive many tens of thousands of people to an online giving day homepage, even for a smaller institution. For a larger institution, that should be well into the six figures. If we can get a conversion rate of 10, 20%, I mean, we can do the math. We're talking about then thousands of gifts during a giving day. And the technology makes a big difference. I see a great example here, having video, having something that tracks the progress, tracks the donors, tracks the gifts coming in, the dollars, has a very clear call to action, in this case, a donate button at the upper corner, a button that stands out. There's plenty of studies on what makes for the best CTA, whether you're in an online shopping environment or an online giving environment. And one of the things that really helps is when that button stands out and is ever present. So you want to make sure that you have a bright, vibrant color. Actually, best case scenarios have a color that looks nothing like the rest of the website. I know that can be a tough sell for some folks in terms of design. But the only way we might improve on what we see here on the right is take that donate button and make it bright pink. I know that might sound ridiculous, but in terms of conversions, that would be the best case scenario. But it's pretty good as it is. That bright yellow stands out quite well, and of course matches the brand of the overall giving day in this case. Multiple choice. Donors like to be able to choose where they want their money to go. That's true now more than it ever has been before, the whole world over. It's part of the reason why that theme is so important. Something that really resonates with your community and gets them excited and inspires them to give is important. And again, you can build this into the platform so that you have different areas of campus which you can support so that donors can sort of select from a shopping list of sorts. And again, supporting a multi-channel event so that you can take your offline gifts, upload them into the platform so that you can watch video on the platform so that it's a dynamic experience that updates in real time. Giving day and major donors. Major donors can be a critical part of an online giving day. Are the group of folks that can take you well into that 6- and 7-figure range, and can also inspire small gift giving through things like matches and challenges. So, what we do for our giving days is we like to work directly with prospect development and with gift officers to enhance solicitation strategies with what we can learn from following our donors and our prospects online, what their social media is telling us, what their online behavior is telling us, and working that into a solicitation strategy that could very well lead to a big gift in advance of a giving day. So what we're looking for are those matches and challenges. Anyone who gives between now and the top of the next hour will have their gift doubled. If we get to 100 donors by noon today or by the end of the campaign, this generous donor will give us a $100,000 gift. Those types of incentives based on sort of dangling a big gift out there as a carrot that encourages small gift giving works tremendously well. Donors the world over are 20% more likely to make a gift when a match is in play. And it makes perfect sense. Your dollars are doubled without having to double your dollars, essentially. So that works quite well. This is the type of thing that we do want to present to our major donors and prospects because they, again, are excited about participating in these very vibrant, very exciting online events. And then after the giving day, because we know that those who are online on a regular basis are wealthier than the general population, and especially those who are not active online. So a big giving day where we have hundreds of new donors, we absolutely want to sift through that list of new donors and see if we can't uncover some major gift prospects. You will. You absolutely will. If you have a giving day where you have 200-300 new donors, there are new major gift prospects sitting in that pool waiting to be discovered. We want to make sure we take the opportunity to do so. Beyond the giving day, nurturing donors with a multi-channel strategy, because giving day is great, but giving days are best when they're part of a much bigger, comprehensive, holistic approach to fundraising throughout the year. So, we really do want to think about content marketing first and foremost. This is crucial. This is the currency online. Having great content that pops in a person's feed and keeps you you and the idea of giving back to your institution and just the impact the institution has. It doesn't have to always be about fundraising. Just the message about what difference your institution makes in the world can be told through great content. And when we couple that with artful storytelling, we put data behind it, we look at which content works, we can have a really tremendously effective program that doesn't just grab gifts in the first place, but can steward and then retain those donors over time. And not all content is created equal. Whatever it takes, investing in some level in video is a really good idea if you're not already doing so. 57% of everybody who watches a nonprofit's video, get this, will eventually go on to make a gift to a nonprofit. This is a 2013 Google study. Yes, I know, Google owns YouTube, so perhaps they're a bit biased. But if this is even 10% accurate, let's say 5% of everybody who watches your video will go on to make a gift to your organization. I mean, that's tremendous. You get a video on Facebook that gives you 1,000 views and there's 50 donors right there that have never given before. So video is very important. And the good news is video, while it's extremely important, is becoming easier and easier to produce, especially to produce the type of video that's effective for fundraising. Now, there's always going to be a time and a place for a well-produced video piece. I'm a big believer in that. My background is in video. And there are certain cases and certain points in time where a hyper-polished, very professional-looking video makes the most sense. But in terms of fundraising, in terms of convincing someone to make a gift, sometimes those more highly polished professional videos are actually the worst thing you can do. Look at this stat here. This is from ThankView. ThankView is a platform that attaches to phone programs so that when a phone program calls someone and that person makes a pledge or a gift, the phone is hung up and that student caller has their webcam turned on instantly. And they record a thank you for that donor, which gets placed into an email and sent to that donor. So the next time the donor checks their email, after they've had this conversation with the student caller during the phone program, they have an email waiting for them that thanks them for their gift or encourages them to fulfill a pledge, which they maybe have not yet fulfilled. And when you have that really raw, authentic, just the student and really nothing else there, somewhat unrehearsed, unpolished video, those videos are the ones that donors stick with. They watch those to completion 61% of the time. There's also an option that you can upload a video through ThankView where it's produced. It's something that was done in advance. It's usually a bit longer and a bit more professional looking. It still is a pretty good watch rate from start to finish, 47%. But it does trail significantly behind that more authentic webcam version. Here's the important number, though. CTA clicks. Call to action. So remember, we're getting an email here. And that email is asking a person to complete their gift. They've committed to making a gift online by saying they pledge a gift, but they haven't actually made the gift yet. They get the email. They can make the gift by simply clicking Give Now on that email. When we have that authentic, real, raw video from the student caller, it's a 15% click on the conversion link. When we have the uploaded version, it's 10%. 50% better completion rate when we have that real, that authentic video. And this is great news because it's so easy using our phones to go out there and grab a quick piece of content. 30 seconds, 40 seconds. A student says thank you. A new building is going up on campus. It's a pretty sunset. Anything like that can be recorded very, very quickly and sent directly to a major donor, a prospect. It can be sent to a communicator on campus who can then package it, put it up on Facebook. The key here is if you don't record something, you don't have something to show. If you record something and it's rubbish, fine, hit delete. You don't have to use it. But if you record something and it's great, that's solid gold content. So all of us with our cell phones should always be out there recording video every chance we get. If you want to have sort of a filter in place and have the communicator sort of sift through these videos on a regular basis, not a bad idea. But the last thing we want to do is not record something that is a really good opportunity. So get out there, record it, take a video of it, package it, and distribute it however you see fit for your institution. But remember, the more authentic it looks, the more effective it might be. I'm sure there's probably a threshold there where that might go in the opposite direction, but as long as you can see it and hear it, I suppose. But again, there are points in time where high production value makes a lot of sense. The central video for a giving day, for example, the thing that lives in the middle of your website, you probably want that to be something that looks as if it belongs at your institution, something that is befitting of the brand of your great institution. So you want that out there. But in addition to that, in addition to that really strong video on a giving day, you should have a near constant stream of these more authentic videos that take off about 30 seconds and $0 to produce and share. We just want a storm of content on people's social media feeds during the giving day. And authentic video is one of the best types of content that's relatively easy to produce that can keep us front and center in folks' minds during a giving day. And then, of course, Facebook Live. Highly recommend Facebook Live throughout the year, but especially in an online giving day, because Facebook loves Facebook Live. Facebook exists to do one thing and one thing only: keep people like you and me on Facebook for as long as possible. That is of more value to them than anything else. When we're on there, we're doing things, we're talking about who we are, we're showing them who we are, we're making ourselves better targets for their ads. Facebook as a business is focused on keeping people on the network for as long as they can. That's why you should never take a post or a story, for example, and simply post that to Facebook if it exists on a different website. Facebook doesn't want to show people stories that exist on different websites because that means people leave Facebook. Facebook loves showing Facebook Live, though, because Facebook Live can often be 30, 40, 45 minutes long, and people will often sit through that for a long period of time, keeping them on the network, having them engage in the comment section, having them like things, having them share it. So Facebook loves Live, and it's one of the few types of Facebook content where you can still get massive views without paying for those massive views. And pretty much any other case, if you want anyone to see your content on a Facebook page, you have to buy ads. That's more so true now than it ever has been. There's almost no such thing as organic reach on a post anymore. You have to pay for it. Facebook Live is the one exception. And it gives viewers the opportunity to talk with you in real time. During a giving day, they can ask questions, they can comment on things, they can feel like they're part of that event, even though they might be on the other side of the planet watching it on their Facebook page. It's the modern pledge drive. It's sort of an innovative twist on some of those telethons where, you see a person in front of a phone bank with a bunch of callers behind them talking about the need to give to support this, that, and there. That's what a good Facebook Live can feel like, as a modern version of the pledge drive. So again, more authentic video. For a lot of our clients, we provide video training for staff. Again, not to make them Steven Spielberg, just to make them ready for funniest home videos. Make sure that they can get some really good shots, some good images, something that can be useful and beneficial to the institution. And then we also want to lead by example. We want to get some of this content out on a regular basis. We want to showcase it on the Facebook page so that people aren't afraid to do this, but we can show them that there is real impact through this authentic, approachable video. Beyond that, I mentioned how if you are not using Facebook ads, you're probably just sort of tweeting out into the nothingness, or posting out into the nothingness. Very, very few pages get any kind of organic content whatsoever, organic views whatsoever anymore. So develop and execute a Facebook advertising strategy and lean on those ambassadors. There's sort of that one thing you can do if you're not going to be spending ads, or even in addition to ads on Facebook, for example, but on Twitter and Instagram as well. Because if a person shares something, that sort of tricks the algorithm a bit, or cheats it a bit. Any real person taking your Facebook post and sharing it, that's going to be seen by people within their community, within their network. So, if we can encourage some of that behavior, then we're sort of getting around the algorithm that restricts the content. For multi-channel fundraising, the donor journey development is a big part of this. Again, we talked about this earlier a bit. When you're doing your segmentation, yes, we want to think about new donors. We want to think about annual donors. We want to think about the major gifts prospects. That's one part of it, but we also want to think about the content themes and the fundraising themes. We want to know what our supporters are interested in, and we want to create content throughout the year that talks about those areas. Doesn't mean we can't introduce new concepts and try to fundraise for more general funding opportunities from time to time. But, if a donor is supporting a school of vet med, then we want to have stories about puppies and cats and what have you go into that donor on a fairly regular basis. If they're interested in the environment, we want solar energy, we want wind power, we want carbon emissions and what that does to the climate. We want that type of content reaching out and going out to those donors. So we want life cycle segmentation for where the donor is and their in their life's journey and their level of support for the institution. And we also want content segmentation so that we can talk with donors about issues that matter most to them. Part of the multi-channel piece is having, I think, a really good online giving experience, just like it is for the giving day. And, whether we're talking about micro crowdfunding campaigns for major donors or what have you, when you have a online giving platform like this that really kind of features the cause, not just Give Now, great online giving experience is critical as well, but we want to have something that features the cause, that has video, that has photos, that has updates, that really helps a donor move through the process of determining that they want to support an organization or support a particular cause. All right, so next up, you'll see the Q&A there. I'm going to get back to Q&A in just 1 second. So if anyone has any questions that I can address, please, if you haven't yet already done so, type those into the Q&A field. Again, my apologies for the technical difficulties earlier in the presentation. We're not too sure what happened there, but glad we're able to at least get through to you some of these tips on Giving Day. So first things first, you don't have to go out and be the University of Sydney or Columbia or Santa Clara or any of the examples we talked about today. Starting small, working with one or two major donors and a group of 30 or 40 online ambassadors, that can be worth a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 boost to your annual fundraising program right there and help you secure a lot of new donors in the process. So there are ways to start at a smaller scale and do something that's more in line with whatever cycle, whatever stage you're at as an institution in terms of fundraising. While we're doing that, it should be part of a longer-term strategy. More and more, we're not looking at Giving Days as these one-off events, but how they fit into the bigger picture. We're seeing clients use them as a spring appeal, multi-channel appeal. We saw the Lemonis campaign. So think long-term. Think about a 12 to 24-month communication and fundraising strategy and how digital plays into that, and then invest in it. Just like anything else, multi-channel and online only works as well as the resources you put towards it. So if people are not, if you do not have seasoned professional communicators who know the digital space, if you don't have good technology, those are some things that can really trip you up pretty quickly. So make sure that if you're planning on making some money off of it, you're making an investment in it in the first place. All right, good deal. I'm going to now stop sharing my screen so you'll lose the PowerPoint for a second. And I'm going to move over to the Q&A. Again, thank you everybody for sticking with us. If you have any questions, please let me know now. I've got one or two coming in here, so I'm going to go ahead and read through these, and I'll keep checking back and forth both on the chat function and on the Q&A. But the first question is, how many online ambassadors are necessary to make a significant impact? And, the answer there is the more the merrier. You really can't have too many online ambassadors during an online giving day. We have actually had a program as small as six individual online ambassadors. A great deal of effort was placed on finding ambassadors who are diverse, who can reach lots of different segments and communities, and who are very, very active in social media. So they were absolute rock stars. It's sort of like a lesser version of the Marcus Lemonises. But if you have that high a quality, even if it's a small group, and they're reaching out to, between the six of them, 50, 60,000 people at least, many of them in the alumni base, you can have a lot of success. But again, it's a numbers game. I would suggest getting, for any institution, set your goal at least 100 ambassadors who are at the annual giving level, who you're communicating with mostly over email and webinar, and then maybe have a half a dozen or so who are your major donor prospects, your leadership annual giving ambassadors, so we can unlock those segments as well. And again, it depends on the institution. I mean, we work with schools like the University of Minnesota and Ohio State University, where we're looking at 100,000 emails after we've segmented things, because the alumni base is 400,000 people, and then we're talking about working with thousands of ambassadors. So it really depends on the size of your institution. But again, the more the merrier. It's pretty hard to find a situation where you wouldn't want someone to advocate on your behalf if they're interested in doing so. So, shoot for a good number, as much as you can manage. And again, technology can really help make that happen as well. But again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Justin Ware, W-A-R-E. If you want to drop me an email, I'm Justin@groundworkdigital.com. Again, first name, just Justin@groundworkdigital.com.